From the start of the 19th century leading up to today, sports in the United States have reflected the trends of society. This is evident in the breaking of the color barrier, wars that America has participated in, the feminist movement, entertainment in America, and the globalization of sports.
One of the most relevant topics in sports history is that of breaking race barriers. And two very important stories not only broke these race barriers, but shattered them. And those are the stories of Jackie Robinson and Jack Johnson. First, Jackie Robinson, who played for the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947, was the first African-American Major League Baseball player that since Moses Fleetwood Walker in the 1880s. He not only was one of the first, he also excelled at the sport, and over his 10-year career, had one of the most astonishing careers in baseball history, and in 1997, for his efforts, the Major League Baseball even retired his number 42 across all Major League teams. The story of Jack Johnson is that of the first American heavyweight champion of the world from 1908 to 1915, who defeated the great white hope, James Jeffries, who tried to steal the title back, claiming that only white men could be the heavyweight champions of the world. But in the fight of the century, Johnson crushed Jeffries, who had to stop the match because not only was he knocked down for the first time in his entire career, but he did not want to be knocked out, which would lead to even further embarrassment of the loss. And after the fight, riots even ensued from African-American citizens all over the country from being so overjoyed at this display of victory.
During World War II, more than 100,000 Japanese Americans were placed in internment camps in the United States. They could not earn money, practice their religion, or speak Japanese, but they were allowed to play baseball. In early 1966, professional boxer Muhammad Ali met qualifications to be eligible for the draft to fight in Vietnam. When notified, he declared he would refuse to serve and considered himself an objector. "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. They never called me a nigger." Stripped of his boxing title and suspended for boxing, Ali was reinstated in 1970 with his case still on appeal. This Sports Illustrated cover has no titles or text. The writers of the magazine figured everyone in the world knew what had happened anyways. The Miracle on Ice during the Cold War in 1980 was much more than a hockey game. It was a fueled rivalry between the United States and Soviet Union. The United States, a huge underdog, stunned the Soviet Union with a 4-3 victory. After the game, the United States players came together and sung "God Bless America."
The feminist movement, which began in the 1950s, gave new power and freedoms to the women of our country through sports specifically. During this time, women began joining forces to better their position in society. Female sports icons significantly helped the cause for equal rights amongst men and women, namely Billie Jean King, the most idolized female tennis player of all time. Billie Jean King won a total of 39 Grand Slam titles and even defeated male ex-Wimbledon champion Bobby Riggs in the Battle of the Sexes in 1973. Bobby Riggs only played in challenge matches that he felt he could win, according to a 60 Minutes report with Riggs himself. Needless to say, King's triumphant victories and success as a female tennis player gave inspiration to millions of women across the U.S.
Tennis star Billie Jean King was a trailblazer for women in sports. She was the first female athlete to win prize money in excess of $100,000 in a single year, and her organizational efforts helped put the women's professional tennis tour in the mainstream of American sports. With a gritty and athletic style of play, Billie Jean King captured dozens of Grand Slam titles, including 20 Wimbledon championships. In 1973, she was challenged to a battle of the sexes by 55-year-old Bobby Riggs, himself an ex-Wimbledon champion. In front of the largest crowd ever assembled for a tennis match, King trounced her male opponent, striking yet another blow for equality in athletics.
The Presidential Medal of Freedom is the highest honor a civilian can receive in this country, and tennis legend Billie Jean King was just one of the people getting that very award at the White House on Wednesday. CBS News.
Shirley Muldowney is another example of a female sports icon. She was the first female to enter the world of professional drag racing and has been considered a pioneer in professional auto racing. She too beat the men who had previously dominated the sport of drag racing, ultimately making a statement for all of the women in America. Sports were no longer best played by men, and women were steadily gaining more and more respect in not only sports, but every other aspect of American living as well.
Who would be best will be settled right now. Shirley has made it in a man's game. They don't consider her a woman now, just another competitor.
Sports in this country have been played for enjoyment, competition, and most of all pride. But in recent years, athletes at the professional level have been dedicated to the money they earn and their sole egos. These priorities have not only hurt the game as a whole, but it has changed the idea of playing for your team and with heart. Michael Crabtree is a prime example of having a larger ambition to make the most cash instead of wanting to play for the love of the game. Crabtree was drafted in the first round, 10th overall, by the San Francisco 49ers as one of the top prospects in the 2009 class. The NFL, the team, and the fans were excited to see his talents on the field. It turns out that the only way to get him on the field was if the organization paid him $23 million. In boxing, a similar case happened with arguably the two top fighters in the world, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao, except this time it involved more than money, but protection for their egos as well. Planned to be the fight of the century, it was soon called off when Mayweather claimed he wouldn't fight unless Pacquiao did a drug test 30 days before the fight. Is this an excuse for Mayweather to protect his undefeated record, or an excuse for Pacquiao because he's too scared to get in the ring with Floyd? Bob Arum, Pacquiao's promoter, said, "My gut feeling is Mayweather does not want to do this fight, and this is his excuse, period." The games today are polluted with these athletes that play for themselves rather than the team they represent. One coach that taught the game he loved for the right reasons was Vince Lombardi. Before he was the coach of the Green Bay Packers, Lombardi was an assistant coach at St. Francis and Fordham University. At the time, these were two tiny Jesuit schools that could pay him no more than $3,500 a year to coach both the football and basketball teams. The money didn't matter to Vince. It was the joy that he received from doing the thing he was best at, coaching. Gaining success on the field came from dedication and pride for the game, which is lacking in today's society.
A new era of diversity and promotion of U.S. professional sports is evident in many examples of the globalization of foreign athletes. David Beckham, the most recognizable soccer player on the planet, is also a fashion icon, tabloid fixture, and a marketing giant. He announced he would join the LA Galaxy in 2007 for $250 million, $1 million a week. David Beckham is a global sports icon who will transcend the sport of soccer in America. Gosh, Major League Soccer Commissioner Don Garber. Not only did the MLS boast its future success, but the merchandising they will profit from it. "We will absolutely market the Galaxy as a global brand," said Lewick of AEG. Another huge transaction of a foreigner into a professional sport was Yao Ming of China, who entered the NBA as a first-round draft in 2001. He was the first non-collegiate player to do this ever. Not only did Yao Ming break boundaries in the draft, but he also became the tallest player to ever play in the league. At only 24, he suddenly found himself as China's first international superstar. Potentially could be the greatest marketing force in sports. His play in the NBA will create a huge fan base of Chinese Americans in the U.S., said Rick Boucher of Sports Illustrated.